Welcome to the Alameda County Bar Association and the Love Thy Lawyer podcast. I'm Louis Goodman. Today, we welcome Daniel Vaswani to the podcast. Daniel is the founder and principal attorney of Virtuoso Law, a full-service criminal defense firm located in downtown Hayward and has offices throughout the Bay Area. Daniel has a broad range of experience, and his legal work includes corporate work, public interest work, legal aid, eviction defense, and consumer law. These days, his primary focus is on mitigating the risks and consequences of a criminal conviction. Daniel Vaswani, welcome to the Alameda County Bar Association and the Love Thy Lawyer podcast.
Louis, thank you for having me, of course. I'm excited to be here. I appreciate the opportunity, of course, to contribute. And hopefully I can give you all a perspective on what I have accomplished so far in this short 14-year career.
Thanks so much for being here. I know that you are just recently back from a paternity leave. How's that gone for you?
So it's been quite tough. I enjoyed being home to some extent because, I obviously own my firm and I have, a few associates, and that requires some degree of management in light of the fact that I was on paternity leave. But it was great. And our newborn is doing wonderful. He's a very large little boy and he's growing quite rapidly. But I sort of give hats off to my wife because she's carrying the brunt of the load and she's still on maternity leave. So she's managing both our toddler and our newborn.
Where are you speaking to us from right now?
So I'm actually physically in my Hayward office.
Where exactly is your office located?
So our office is located in downtown Hayward. So this is our main office. This is where we generally call our home base. And it's right next to a famous bar called Funky Monkey. And so if anybody's familiar with downtown Hayward, you probably have heard of Funky Monkey. We are almost right next door. There's just one shop sort of separating us. But as you mentioned earlier, this is one of our many offices, but this is home base.
So you're right next door to the Funky Monkey. You're just down the street from the cannabis sales place, and you're right across the street from the adult bookstore and the Hayward Chamber of Commerce. So you just couldn't be more centrally located in Hayward.
No, we couldn't. That was sort of the point. So we started in a tiny little room inside of a commercial building, an industrial building, in Hayward next to the Costco at Industrial and Hesperian. We were there for many years, and when the pandemic hit, we thought it was appropriate at that point to go out on our own, and also we were growing, and that we needed more space. So this was perfect, although I spent a ton of money to build it out, unfortunately, but it was completely worth the investment, of course, because of the location. We're centrally located, as you mentioned, right? Cookies is around the corner. We have a few other dispensaries that are very close by. We also have a number of bars that were around us, and, we use that to our full advantage. We have massive window stickers outside of our very large windows. And, it's been a great location for us. And, we enjoy being in Hayward. This is the heart of the Bay Area, as they refer to it. And it's been great.
Can you tell us what type of practice you have? How do you describe your practice?
So I call this heavy criminal. And the reason why is that it's easy in criminal to kind of dissect what you do, meaning you could be a DUI lawyer or you could be a criminal lawyer. And if you're a criminal lawyer, you could do only, hard criminal stuff and not do white collar defense. We do all of it, and we do, all the crimes that include federal offenses throughout the country. So in fact, I've, barred in the Eastern District of Michigan because I had a marijuana money laundering case that was coming from here to Detroit. We use that to our advantage, right? The federal practice is different than state, but we're a full service criminal defense firm. That means everything, start to finish, arraignment to trial and appeal.
Where are you from originally?
I am actually born and raised here. I grew up in Union City. I went to undergrad in LA eventually and law school eventually in LA and came back up. And, I've been here since. So this is still home. My parents are still local. I now live in Contra Costa County. It's been a wonderful place to grow up in various ways. The diversity, the people, the quality of people here, my friends. It's been just a rewarding place to live.
What high school did you go to?
I went to James Logan High School. It is a 4,000 student school, which is quite large, as to my understanding. It was very diverse and just a great place. I enjoyed my high school experience. I have friends that continue from high school because I enjoyed it so much.
And then you went where to college?
I went to UCLA. So had a great time. I'm a Bruin. I will bust out in an 8 clap if we weren't recording. But yeah, I had a great time at UCLA as well. UCLA taught me so much. The sort of the open, bright eyes of an idealistic, like student at that point. Can't let go of the fact that I enjoyed it in the way that I really did. It was a wonderful experience. So
now you ultimately went to law school. Did you take some time off between college and law school, or did you go straight through?
I took 1 year off and I actually worked at Cooley, which is a large firm. I was sort of a case assistant at that point, green and getting a little bit of experience prior to actually heading off to law school, which ended up in LA as well, as I mentioned. And I went to Loyola Law School. I had a wonderful experience at Loyola. Loyola brought me into criminal. So I graduated in 2010. So sometime back. And in 2010, the job market at that point was weak. And I was fortunate to have an offer. So I went to work for eminutes.com, which it was actually a corporate formation law firm, even though it doesn't sound that way. And I was forming corporations for the celebrities. I was, sort of heavily entrenched in corporate. And I took that offer because obviously it was a rough time in the economy. But in my third year of law school, I did a delinquency clinic through the Center for Juvenile Law and Policy called the Juvenile Justice Clinic. And there it kind of sparked my interest for criminal. Obviously delinquency is tangentially related, but yeah, I had, a ton of training from the folks over at the Juvenile Justice Clinic and the Center for Juvenile Law and Policy. And I was very, very fortunate to have that sort of practical experience that taught me, sort of what it would mean to be a criminal practitioner. I came out of law school and I had a corporate offer and I came and I started a private criminal defense firm. No public defender experience, no DA experience, just straight into criminal. Had it not been for those opportunities, I probably wouldn't have been able to do it.
Do you think that taking a little time off between college and law school gave you some better focus when you got to law school?
It focused me more. It gave me the opportunity to sort of step back from that heavy academic pursuit, right? Because when you're in undergrad, you're pushing for those 4.0s, right? I had the college honors, departmental honors, all that stuff. I wrote a thesis and did a series of things. So I was pushing very hard for a long time. So that 1 year gave a short break.
This is kind of a two-part question, but when did you first realize that you wanted to be a lawyer? And when did you decide I'm really actually going to apply to law school?
In the middle of undergrad. It took me some time. At some point I wanted to be a physician. At some point I wanted to do other things. But I think I had a cousin who's actually quite close to me, my fourth cousin actually. So really sort of disconnected relationship. But he was an associate at Pillsbury at that point. And it was when I think I was still in college at that point. And he lined up an internship for me over the summer. And so I was commuting from my parents' home at that point in Union City out to San Francisco and working in one of the high rises. And I realized at that point that it was interesting to me. And he was in the bankruptcy group there. So it was easy to transition my education to potentially being, corporate focused. It didn't appeal as much as after I got the criminal experience, right? So yeah, it started early enough. I didn't change majors or anything along those lines in an effort to pursue law subsequently. Not that you need a major specifically for that purpose, but yeah, it happened in college.
Well, one thing that I really wanted to talk to you about is the business of practicing law. Of all the people who I know who have criminal practices, you are one of the people who I think has really been successful as a business person, as an attorney. And I'm wondering if you could talk about that a little.
This practice is really predicated upon understanding the human component of society. And the better understanding you have of the human component, the better job you can do as an advocate in court and outside of court, but also as a business person as well. So I see our clients, the people around us, all the members of our community, we're all one and the same to some extent. And you have to understand that in order to effectively understand what they want to see, feel, and hear in order to trust you to give them opportunities to assist them with the problem in their life. I fear that many practitioners don't take it as seriously as I do, though. It's a business, but at the same time, we're given such opportunity in terms of our profession to contribute positively to people. My goal day to day with every interaction, and Louis, this is true for when you and I see each other in court, right? I want to make everyone's day just a smidge better when you interact with me. And if I can contribute in that fashion, it's a pretty big impact generally.
What sort of tools, SEO, advertising type things do you use in order to get your message out there to the public so that you can be available to people who need your services?
It's a good question, and it's a sophisticated answer that I'm going to give you. So I'm of the belief that someone will hire you if they have 2 points of contact. What that means is that they'll see you one fashion and see you in a second fashion, and that will get you hired. We obviously spend money on pay-per-click advertising, which generates, decent revenue, but there are various other things that we do. I myself am graduating as the president of the South Asian Bar Association of Northern California. My term is coming to an end in 30 days. It was a considerable sort of time commitment to do that. But what I realized is that I'm at the forefront of the community at that point. I have the opportunity to interact directly with people, and I'm regularly communicating with those potential clients as a result of that. So we understand, I guess, what the big, pay-per-click advertising companies want to see. Mm-hmm. And we understand what ends up being a successful ad as a result of that too.
Do you use any of the kind of classic practice management tools in running your office?
Yeah, we absolutely do. We shopped around, and actually we now use MyCase, if you've heard of it.
I interviewed the developer of MyCase on the podcast.
That's right. I recall seeing that as well. So MyCase has been very helpful. We don't utilize it to its full capacity. We're getting there. And in fact, we're bringing in support to assist us in prepping us to get there, because in streamlining our communications would be very helpful for our company. And so we're working towards that, by using MyCase. But we also have a pretty sophisticated Google suite as well, which ties in our calendaring, and it backs up 2 levels of calendaring on MyCase and on Google. And so, we've made those things sort of work together, and the harmony between the two is actually pretty great. And now AI is the next thing, right? And MyCase is integrating some of that stuff. Google's integrating AI as well, and it's making our lives just better organized so that we can more efficiently process information.
What do you think's the best advice you've ever received? And what advice would you give to a young attorney just starting out?
Remain resilient, right? Because inevitably challenges are going to arise. And, that remains true, I think, for all ages. I think that's one thing that I hope to teach my kids, is that things are going to be difficult at some point in your life. And when they're difficult, you need to remain resilient. And that difficulty is what's going to help you grow. It's going to help you be more successful. It's going to help you be better organized. It's going to help you be a better member of your community, your family, your relationship. And generally, right, when you're resilient, it's hard to lose, right? So that's one thing. The second thing is be thoughtful and sensitive to the emotions of others. And the reason why is that we as human beings, especially very verbally capable human beings who are consistently in court, constantly arguing, we are very, very good at using words to evoke emotion, to make people feel and think and move forward. Those 2 things, they really contributed to my growth as an attorney, but more so as a human.
Going to shift gears here a little bit. What's your family life been like, and how has practicing law fit into that, and your family life fit in?
I have the most wonderful wife as well. And she is a very patient, wonderful, hardworking, educated, diligent woman. My wife is just the most wonderful person that I've met in my entire life, hence why I married her. In light of the amount of effort that I have to put in order to make sure that my firm, my company, succeeds, she doesn't complain. And she asks that I contribute, and I'll wake up at 4:00 in the morning every day. I'll clean the house a little bit before I head off to the gym. I'll get to the gym and I'll return and I'll clean a little bit more, get ready and rush to court. And she knows that I'm doing endlessly everything that I can to contribute to our family dynamic in a positive way. I'm not one of those people that, I have to live that extremely lavish life, but I want to make sure that my kids have the opportunities that my immigrant parents, gave me, but more, right? Because I think that leveling up is important for us. I would like them to have a little bit less difficulty compared to what I experienced. And so I think that's what I'm providing. And I think my wife sees that's what I'm working towards, which is part of the reason why she's so good to me. But, uh, my family life as a result of that is good because my kids, right, they're going to have every opportunity that I had and more. And it's exciting to see because they're just smarter than I ever could be, right? There's so much more potential there just in this next generation, even compared to who I was. I mean, this world is developing so rapidly. And if we could only, transfer some of that to the next generation, I am very fortunate to say that I think I'm going to have that opportunity. My kids are very young, right? I have a newborn and I have almost a 2-year-old and I don't know yet, but my hope is that all this hard work and diligence and all this focus and all this time that we spend with them will give them those opportunities. I think it will. I have faith and I'm resilient. We just push forward.
Let's say you came into some real money, $3 or $4 billion. What, if anything, would you do differently in your life?
I don't think money changes much in the sense of where I currently exist. I'm not the person that would do less. I would like to do more for the people around me, right? The incredibly effective attorney that shares an office with me next door, right? Or the attorney that's 2 doors down, right? I would like to give them more. I've been very fortunate, as I said, for all the people that have come together in my life, right? The degree of loyalty. My office manager, Chris Baraka, has known me since we went to high school together. He's been with me since the day that I started the firm. It's just like I have such really wonderful people around me. If I could buy them into happiness with that money, I would.
Let's say you had a magic wand. There was one thing you could change in the legal world or the world in general. What would that be?
I would immediately provide our locality with the resources that they need to actually deal with the issues. So I would make sure that, we built a system that could provide resources immediately, just instantaneous, no delay. We see the problem. We know what it is. Let's fix it instead of incarcerating.
Let's say you had 60 seconds on the Super Bowl. Someone gave you a Super Bowl ad. You had an enormous audience. What message would you want to put out there?
If everybody entered a room the same way that I do, right, to make everybody's day a little bit more positive, day by day, I think genuinely the world would be a better place. So if I could somehow convey to everyone that if we just treated all the people around us with just a small amount of just positivity, that everybody else would continue spreading that, I think we'd have far fewer problems.
Daniel, I have some more questions that I want to ask you, but before we get to that, there's a couple of other people who have joined us on this call, and I would like to give them an opportunity to make a comment or ask you a question. Ocean, are you there? And can you unmute and join us?
Yes, sir. And pleasure to be here. Always love your show. Thank you so much for the podcast. Daniel, it's been great hearing from you. I think the biggest thing that sticks out to me is just your attitude. They're really personal, focusing on connecting with people, sort of remaining curious, trying to just make the best out of every interaction. How did you get to that point in your life? How did you become this person?
That's a great question. I realize, right, that what I want to hear from people generally is hope, right, and positivity. And for me, the only way that I could then get that from people is to give it to them as well, right? So it's tied to some degree of selfishness, right? So Ocean, if you and I ran into each other on the street, I'd like to make sure that when you spoke to me, you felt that positivity, and it's likely that you would reciprocate. It's likely that you would contribute that same degree of positivity to me. So that degree of selfishness in myself, right, just made me understand that I enjoy this just genuine interaction with people. I enjoy not focusing on the negative. I enjoy pursuing the positive. It makes me feel good. And that's a selfish thing, right? But it really does. And I realize that it also make other people feel good as well. And that means that when they move on to their next interaction or whatever it is, they're probably making everybody else feel good. So it's just nice to be a part of something positive. So it's nice to feel like you're contributing, I guess. And so, I've been volunteering my time for a long time, and I've had very limited time as of late with new kids and so on. But I still want to make sure that my experience with everybody and what they contribute to me is just that equilibrium of positivity. And so I just learned that it works, and it helps. It makes things smoother.
Thank you for your answer, and thank you for being you. We need more attorneys like you in the profession.
I have a question for you. If you had to speak to a judge your age and you had to address an order that you were to live with one of your 3-strike criminals that just got out of jail, and they were going to be put right into your house to live with, maybe with your family or your pets. What would you say to this judge in 30 seconds or less? Or would you get good criminal counsel to address the matter of why you wouldn't want to live with one of your own clients, say down the hall in the bedroom next to you?
Yeah. So, Sin, great question, right? Okay. So this ties to what Ocean and I were just discussing a few moments ago as well. I wouldn't necessarily contest the order. I definitely have seen, so we represent the whole gambit. We have the homicides, we have the complex, sex cases and so on. We have it all. And all these people, in light of the positions they're in light of the way that they grew up, they all genuinely communicate with me in a positive way in light of the difficult situations that they're in. And the reason why is because, as I said, right, I try to communicate with them with respect and positivity, and that comes back twofold often, because I don't necessarily believe that people are bad, right? I'm a criminal defense attorney. I see this daily, and I genuinely get the good out of almost all of my clients in almost every single interaction. And so I don't have the reason to contest, because I like to believe, right? I like to believe that human component that I understand so well can make that even situation harmonious, right? And maybe I'm a little idealistic, but based on my experience, that doesn't concern me. I'm happy to contribute, and if I can make their existence that much more positive, I'll take it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Daniel, I have a few more questions. Is there anybody, living or dead, who you would like to meet?
I think the general essence that President Obama carried was very sort of resonant. It resonates in me to some extent. I just love that positive sort of existence. And it was a different time in our country, of course, but I felt he led in a way that, compelled people to do their best, to be their best.
Daniel, if someone wants to get in touch with you, someone needs representation, or another attorney wanted to contact you to get some advice or some insight about how to handle a particular case or particular situation, what's the best way for people to contact you?
So generally, the best way is to visit our website, which is www.virtuosolaw.com. That's VIRTUOSOLAW.com. Or just drop by the Funky Monkey, which is next door, and I'm probably here. So multiple opportunities.
Daniel, is there anything you wanted to talk about that we have not discussed? Anything that you'd like to bring up? Anything at all?
So no, outside of the fact that I am very grateful to have the privilege to be able to contribute to this conversation, this podcast. Louis, it's been a pleasure learning from you, seeing you practice, seeing you work, seeing you run your business as well. I'm very grateful. And I have to say thank you openly for all that.
Well, thank you, Daniel. And thank you, Daniel Vaswani, for joining us today on the Love Thy Lawyer podcast and the Alameda County Bar Association podcast. It's been a pleasure to talk to you on behalf of all of us. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
That's it for today's episode of Love Thy Lawyer. If you enjoyed listening, please share it with a friend and follow the podcast. If you have comments or suggestions, send me an email. Take a look at our website at lovethylawyer.com, where you can find all of our episodes, transcripts, photographs, and information. Thanks to my guests, and to Joel Katz for music, Brian Matheson for technical support, Paul Roberts for social media, and Tracy Harvey. I'm Louis Goodman.
It's tough, right? I genuinely believe that your brain develops drastically past, that prime law school age.